We got Daryn Colledge in the studio today. He's a legendary BSU football player. He's a Super Bowl champion Green Bay Packer, and he's an Afghanistan combat vet.
So we're going to talk transition. He left college football, pro football, and now he's leaving the Army. We're going to talk about kneeling at the national anthem, too.
Yeah, some controversial subjects.
Yeah. So hit subscribe and enjoy the show.
Subscribe!
Join us in learning about the stories and the people who inspire us. This is the Mission 43 podcast. I'm Dan Nelson.
And I'm Brian Madden. Idaho is our home. The military is what we did.
Welcome back to the Mission 43 podcast. We're super stoked and excited to have Daryn Colledge here. I think a lot of people in the community grew up watching you play football. You're a Boise State football legend here. You went to the Green Bay Packers, no big deal, won a Super Bowl, and then you came back and joined the Idaho Army National Guard. So, where are you from originally?
Originally in North Pole, Alaska. So born in Fairbanks, raised there for some my beginning years, and then work took my father down to Southern California, so my family was down there for a while, then came back up to Washington for the beginning of elementary and middle school, and then back to Alaska for middle school and for all of high school. So I'm kind of all over the West Coast, but now I've been in the Valley now on and off for the last 21 years. So really this is the most home place I probably could have.
Have you always wanted to join the military? Like, how do you go from, earning a Super Bowl ring with the Packers to coming back here and joining the Idaho Guard?
I don't, it's hard to say, always wanted to be in the military. I grew up during a great era of military movies. I grew up in that time of, of the Top Guns and all those. And, you see those things and you're obviously influenced by the military in general. But, North Pole's one of those towns that's surrounded by two military bases. Mm-hmm. So, you got Eielson Air Force Base on one side, you got Fort Wainwright on the other. And North Pole's one of those towns where it's almost like you do what your dad does or you join the military to get out. Not a lot of people leave that area. Alaska is a special place in general, but it's a blue-collar community for sure. And I kind of thought military was going to be my way out. I knew I didn't want to do what my dad did. I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be a fencer my whole life. I didn't want to break my body. I'd watch what happened to my grandfather, my uncles.
So you played football instead, professionally?
So I played football. I was like, what, I'm going to play sports. And, I played sports because I loved it. But, somebody believed in me and they were a coach and said, hey, I think you can get a scholarship. And I was like, okay, well, we'll try that route, and I got a scholarship from Boise State, and I didn't know how long I was going to be here, but I knew I was going to get a college education. I was going to get a degree. I was going to be the first man in my family to have one. And then I was like, okay, then I'll join the military. And somebody believed in me down the road and said, hey, we think you play in the NFL for a little bit. And I thought that'd last about 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, let's do that, and then we'll just join the military after that. And so it's always kind of been this progression of something I wanted to do, and everything else kind of got in the way for a long time. And then when I got done, I realized I needed to do something else, and I always wanted to serve, so I started doing the research and see if I had the ability to still do it, and the National Guard was like, we'll take you. And it was a fast way for me to get in and something I really wanted to accomplish in my life, and I did. I joined.
You went to Afghanistan, you deployed?
Yeah.
When did you do that?
That would have been over 16 and 17, the end of 16 and into 17, I believe now.
We were there the same time in 17.
Yeah, so it's starting to feel like it was like when I think about it, I was like, oh, it happened just last year. But then I started looking at the dates, and I look back at the pictures and reminisce with buddies. I'm like, man, it's been a few years. So it's been almost 3 years now.
How'd you decide what to do in the military?
Yeah, that was an easy decision for me. So I've been an aviator my whole life. Grew up flying airplanes with my dad, flying bush planes in Alaska. Got my private pilot license while I was playing in the league, and I could actually afford to fly an airplane. And when I got out, I knew I wanted to stay around the aviation game. And when I came to the National Guard, they said, we fly UH-60s. And with my pilot experience, they said there's openings for pilots. Do you want to take the testing and do you want to do all that stuff? And at first I was interested in that idea and flying a helicopter and being a pilot. But my wife kind of looked at me and said, we followed you around for 10 years in the league. Going to Fort Rucker doesn't exactly sound like something I want to do, and I'd like to raise our kids here. But, my wife's a military brat. Her father was an Air Force guy, and she knows the life. And she says, I'll support you 100%, but I've always followed you. And if, you want to do this and you need to do this, let's do it. But if not, I'd love to be here in Boise. And I did some more research and realized if I enlisted instead of winning the officer route, I could be a crew chief and I'd be flying whenever I wanted the opportunity to, and I wouldn't have to be in Fort Rucker for a year and a half of my life. And that ended up being a really easy decision. So became a crew chief. I loved bending wrenches. It was one of my hobbies. Wanted to be inside of a helicopter, wanted to fly. So really kind of scratched 2 itches, and it got me in the helicopter the quickest.
That's awesome. And were you still flying on the civilian side?
Yeah, I still fly a bush plane on my civilian side. I still get to fly whenever I want, and I still have that opportunity. So that scratches the itch of getting behind the controls and But being a crew chief is one of the great things in my life. Like
Yeah.
I get to wear so many hats as a crew chief. Some days I'm a door gunner. Some days I'm doing hoist rescue. Last year I had a chance to fight fire out in California with Cal Fire and drop water buckets, and I've gotten to do search and rescue. And then obviously my deployment, I got to be a medevac guy and go out and try to bring kids home. And that's the amount of hats you get to wear as a crew chief. As much as I'm always amazed by what our pilots can do in an aircraft, and they got a great job. I'm always like, hey man, I get to get out of the helicopter all the time and get to go do something else too. So it's an awesome job. I love it.
We should stay on aviation this whole time.
Yeah, right. Well, you've seen like the real world. You've seen Afghanistan. You've fought fire, and I'm just curious because I played ball too, but not nearly at the same level you did. Yeah. But I always hear the analogies like, "Hey, this is war." Like we're going to battle, man. You know what I mean? So having seen it both, like, what's your take on that? Does it bother you?
No, I mean, because I was raised in that lifestyle early. Like, in my first 4 years in the league, like, you're out there and you are battling. Like, you feel like it's a physical battle. My fourth and fifth year. Sport. Yeah, it is. Like, you kind of look at it and you watch people get busted and broken. But, in my fourth year, I had the first chance to really start doing the USO stuff and the Navy entertainment stuff and going over and meeting the troops. And really, that was the catalyst that changed my life. That's what forced me in the direction that I knew I was going to go a different way. And I was actually ready after we won the Super Bowl to retire and to join the military and actually go the active side, because I was still young at that time, and I was like, okay, if I want to do this, this is that time. And then I became a free agent, and the money was a situation where I was like, I have a chance to take care of everybody in my life and make sure everybody's good. And, that really extended my career out. But those trips like the USO and the Navy entertainment, and getting the chance to go to forward operating places and be on ships and meet corpsmen and meet Marines and meet the Army active duty guys and go out and engage with those people, it changed my life. Like I met people that I really thought, I was like, these are the people that I want to spend my life with. These are genuine articles of the humanity and what America represents. And they were the catalyst that really sent me down the road of eventually joining the military. And then to see what they were really going through, you realize that football is football. It's a sport. It's a game. People get hurt. There's people out there battling because they're trying to make sure that their families get fed. Like, I get that, but going to real war and seeing what it is, and especially being on the medevac side and seeing the worst side of it, like, that reminds you what the real consequences are. I got buddies that are messed up. I got buddies that, they'll physically never be the same again for sure. But nobody I played with has lost a leg or an arm or their life playing in their game. Now obviously there's things that are changing that are similar to military. We have CTE injuries just like everybody else. And we're starting to see some of the repercussions of that for sure. And there's some consequences in playing the game. But I will never, ever, think of what I did for 9 years as the same thing as I did for the last 6. Yeah.
Did you tell your teammates this, that you had thoughts about going to the military? Was that a conversation?
Yeah, we had the conversations, especially offensive linemen. Offensive linemen are a different breed anyways, because our job is to protect. Our job is to serve other people. We play a very small role. Like, your name gets called when you do something wrong, never when you do something right. Yeah. So you work as a cohesive team all the time. And really, a lot of the people that went on my trips were offensive linemen. They wanted to see what the other side was. And quite a few people that I played with actually joined the military after, or joined some kind of service, either joined firefighting or joined police departments, because those trips changed their life. They realized they wanted to live a life of service instead of a life of just playing ball. So when they retired or eventually got kicked out of the league, like everybody does, they kind of went down that road. And especially when I joined, because mine was a little more public than some of the guys I played with, just because I had a longer career, they called me up and kind of asked, what route did you take? How did you get there? How did you try to change your body? Because, trying to go from a 315-pound offensive lineman to a dude who's going to go serve in the military, that's a huge step.
Yeah.
How did you do that? What was that process of like cutting down to, running a 40-minute 5 mile or 14-minute 2 mile?
The thing that changed the most is your eating habits. When you're an offensive lineman and you're working so hard, you're just consuming calories. Yeah. Like, that's been the biggest change in my life, is to all of a sudden not eat like an offensive lineman, to go back and try to be normal. But I really set out in a routine. I found out what the minimum standards were to pass the PT test, and I said, okay, that's my goal, because I was strong enough. That was never a problem, but I run 8 seconds at a time, on the football field, and I take 30 seconds off. To go out and run 2 miles, that's a whole different game. So I started cutting. I started working out. I started getting to the gym in a different way. I wasn't trying to build anymore. I was trying to pull back, and I just started trying to run every day a little bit and do push-ups and sit-ups and try to build that. So by the time I left for boot camp, I already knew I could pass the PT test. Mm-hmm. And then the motivation really was being the old guy walking into boot camp with 20-year-olds and chase them down. Yeah. So I spent the entire boot camp and AIT running as fast as I could, just trying to catch kids, just showing that like the old guy could still do it. So they, most of it was motivation just brought on by the competition, and I knew competition. And then boot camp for me, I think, was a lot easier than a lot of people. Like, I'd spent a lifetime getting yelled at. I'd spent 15 years getting yelled at and told to do something and being reminded I screwed up all the time. So for me, it was an easy adaptation to get over to that side and be like, okay, get militarized, be a soldier, right place, right time, right uniform. Well, that was all easy to me. And for some reason, for 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds, that's a real struggle.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want people in charge of them. So for me, I was like, all right, stand up at the right place, run as fast as I can. This is all easy. Give me clothes and give me food.
Dude, that's been a challenge for me at times. I had I was early enlisted, a young, stupid kid, 17-year-old, and then after college and a little more life experience coming back and doing it again. And just, that was a real source of frustration for me, dealing with kids that had no perspective on what they were doing. Like, how did you deal with that? I mean, everyone knew you were an NFL dude at that point, so you already have the spotlight on you.
Well, actually, for a lot of people, it was quiet. The great thing about being an offensive lineman is not people, know who you are. If you're Aaron Rodgers, you walk in the room, everybody knows who you are. But as an offensive lineman, most people didn't. So my cadre had an idea who I was. They'd give them a heads up. Mm-hmm. But they also knew that I wasn't there for publicity stuff. Yeah. This wasn't like dirty jobs, like I was going to go out and try to be a soldier kind of thing. Like, this is what I want to do, and this was a career, and I dedicated to it. So I never tried to be Daryn Colledge, the football player. I was extremely excited to put that side of my life away and be Daryn Colledge, the football player. And for the most part, a lot of people around me actually didn't know I played until like the end, when we got to know each other better, and all of a sudden we talk about our past life. Mm-hmm. So I was put in leadership roles right away. Yep. Obviously, as a 30-year-old, the cadre looks at you and goes, okay, that person might be able to get some of this stuff organized. But yeah, that's always the frustrating part. It's hard to get kids to listen. And I really looked at my opportunity going in the military as an opportunity to hopefully mentor some of the guys, especially coming from the enlisted side, and looking at guys that were making choices in their life that were going to probably take them in one or two directions, to kind of hopefully guide some of those guys and say, hey, here's where I've made my mistakes before 30. Like, here's your opportunity. Use it to the best of your ability. And, you're always going to run into knuckleheads. I'm going to meet guys like you. And, I had special duties for people like that. And I had special ways to, to try to punish those dudes in any way I could. But you eventually get everybody in line. And my goal was always to lead by example. And if I can do it at 30 and I can lead by example, like, it picks up a lot of those guys along the way. If they're like the old guys out there and he's outrunning us or outrucking us, like, we can pick it up. And I think a lot of people fell under that banner.
I'm just picturing how terrified I would be, my former enlisted self, of a fire team leader or squad leader that was a former offensive lineman for the Packers. I'm like, dude, that would be thrashed.
Were there any leaders in the NFL that you just took lessons from and applied in the military that just stand out to you?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that, everybody kind of has their different leadership style. You've got guys that can lead by example. You got guys that are definitely word guys that can go out and can get people fired up in that way. I was never one of those dudes. I was never a guy who could stand up and give a speech, a rah-rah speech, but I could always lead by example. So I had to kind of follow those guys as best I could. And I found, two of my favorite players that I really played with were in Green Bay. I got to play with Hall of Famer Charles Woodson, and I got to play with Donald Driver. Mm-hmm. And these dudes had careers. Donald Driver's a Green Bay Hall of Famer, and Charles is a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And, these are two of the best to ever do it. And I used to watch the way they worked and the way they motivated people, as they really showed by example. They had done everything they could. They could have gone in most practices and cashed it in and done, whatever they want. And the year we won the Super Bowl, Charles Woodson was injured and for a bunch of the season. But he was in the training room every single day. When most people were taking the day off or in the training room relaxing, listening to music, he was in there grinding tape every single day, trying to find a way to perfect what he could do when he couldn't do it physically. And then when he was back physically, you'd watch him and Donald go out and compete for footballs like the game was on the line at practice. And most people are like kind of going through the motions. You're working on your drill, especially when it's week 12 and 13. Your body's beat to hell anyways. And those guys were out there still competing every single day. And I'm like, that's what I got to do. Like, that shows me, like, I've got to compete. I got to show up to work every single day. I've got to lead from the front. And whether I'm, sick, injured, or whatever it is, like, I got to go out and do a job. Because what it meant to me was that I never had to think about those two. You could look right at and be like, those dudes are going to show up for the game. Let's worry about the next guy. And I said that was going to be my goal as a player. Like, I was going to go out every single day, and I was going to force the coaches to look right past me and go, all right, Darren's got his spot. Yep. Let's worry about something else we got to do. And I knew that my teammates could rely on me in that way. And that's why I didn't miss a game until my 9th year in the league, was stubbornness. Like, I was like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be in my spot every single day in the right place. So coaches have to pass over me and go to the next guy and not worry about him. And I just found a way to kind of hang on doing that. And that was an example set to me by, dudes that were at the top of their game that were still out there showing that they had something to improve and a way to fine tune. There's always something to be worked on, and whether it's it's your first day at work or it's your 10th year on the job, like there's always something to be tweaking and working on. And so I've tried to lead from the example, and along the way I've picked up more of a mentorship role and tried to give some life lessons and stuff like that. But I'm still not the dude who can stand up in the front and necessarily get somebody to run through a wall. It's not my ability.
And I hear a lot of people in the past few years like bitching about the NFL, saying like, oh, they're unpatriotic because of the national anthem incident. Like you being a guy that lived the NFL life for a long time, much longer than most, right?
Yeah.
And now, being a veteran yourself, like what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a hard thing because I was actually speaking for the at the USO Wisconsin for one of their awards ceremonies about 2.5 years ago when Colin Kaepernick thing was really kind of spinning up, and you're really getting a mixed bag, and really it's a visceral reaction no matter each way you put it. It's almost like the football player side of me wants to be the one that's yelling at him, telling him to stand up, because I was that person. Like I stood on the line, I towed the line, I raised my helmet for the soldiers, and I have soldiers in my family. I've got numerous soldiers throughout my family, and some are in the Navy, so I don't count those guys. But most of them are good soldiers, and it's one of those things where, as a soldier, you also see the other side of it, where you're like, I've covered people in flags. I know what that flag represents, but I also know the side of us that fights for your freedom to do as you wish.
Right.
We fight for your ability to have the hopes, dreams, and beliefs for yourself, and to make those decisions for yourself. So as vehemently as I would yell at you to stand up, I would also yell at you to celebrate what gives you the ability and the freedom to do that. I don't want to live somewhere where you have to do what somebody says you have to do. I've fought and I've bled for you to have the freedom to do what you want to do. And as much in my soul as I'm like, man, I know what the sacrifice is behind that, I'm also going to fight just as hard to make sure that you get to do it. So I don't, that's probably a wish-washy answer in the fact that I say you can take a knee, and also I want you to stand up, but I want you to have the ability to do what's important to you and what you believe in. And as long as you're not out there disrespecting people, and you do it in a respectful manner, I got no problem with you doing what makes you happy and you feel is the goal for you.
Did you guys have conversations about that? Is that
well, luckily most of that stuff was over before I was out of the league. So like by the time I was out of the league, that had just started pretty much right after I got out. So we never had that.
Yeah.
We were really the generation that started going out for the national anthem and towing the line, and I was excited to do that. And every game I've gotten to go back, now I'm on the other side as a military personnel. So it's one of those things where the evolution has changed for me, but thank God I wasn't in the league when it happened, because that's a bunch of controversy. Like, it's hard enough to go through your day as a football player. To add in like any of the drama that happens off the field, man, that's a tough thing and a distraction for sure.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that feeling though. What you were talking about before, like, not personally agreeing with something, but also like, hey, I fought for your right to do whatever the hell you want. You hear a lot like the analogies for military veterans that are transitioning, like, oh, it's like, you were the captain of the football team in the Super Bowl, and then now I'm just a nobody. I'm just a dude on the sidelines because my military career ended, whether abruptly or just, normally.
Yeah.
You've been the dude in the Super Bowl, and you've been, the private or specialist in basic training. So what's different and what's similar about transitioning away from athletics and the military for you?
I had a Navy SEAL came and spoke to me once when I was in Arizona Cardinal, Jared Ogden, and he gave this great speech, and he had really 5 key points, but the one point that stuck to me most was like, know your why, right? That we talk about that all the time. Know your why as a soldier, as a person, as an athlete. And I think that the why is super easy when you're in the mix. Like, it's easy as a football player to be a football player. Like, you can wrap yourself up and you can dive in it every single day. And as a soldier, I think the day-to-day monotony of doing the job and training and all that stuff, it gives you a why all the time. And then all of a sudden, those things end for you. And all of a sudden, you're not a football player anymore, or you're not a soldier. And I tell all these guys, and I tell the young guys in the military, and I tell the young guys that I work with now at the university, that don't let that career define who you are. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not a football player. You play football. You're not a soldier. You play soldier. Like, it's not, it doesn't adapt the same way, but find the passions outside of what you're doing that keep you going on a daily basis. Whether it's your family, another career, a hobby, or whatever it is, continue to grow as a person. And that's what helps that transition. Like, I thought I was going to be in the league for 15 minutes. So I was already doing things at the beginning of my career to make sure that I had a plan after I was out of the league to do something else. I never really saw myself as a football player because I saw myself as a kid from North Pole, Alaska, who probably didn't deserve to be there anyways. So I was always chasing the next thing. Okay, I was going to try to find an internship. I was going to work on my radio. I was going to work on TV because that's what I went to university for. So I was already looking at the next career, and I didn't start thinking about anything outside of that until I was really about 5 or 6 years in the league, and I had done well enough to know that, okay, my family's taken care of. I have enough money to not do nothing for the rest of my life, but I now have the chance to do what I want to do, and I get to chase my actual passions. So that's when everything transitioned over to me to start thinking about what the next thing was, what I want to do with my life. And that's when I was like, did I want to do the military because it was my job and I needed that when I was leaving my town? Yes, that's why I wanted to do it when I was going to leave out of North Pole. Now I was starting to look at the military as, okay, I want to do this to just serve. Now, what's that look like? I don't need to go the officer route anymore. I don't need a career anymore. I want to do it just for myself. And that's when I started to define myself different. And the same thing as I transitioned out of my military life. Like, I got to be Daryn Colledge, the soldier, for 6 years. And it's been an amazing 6 years. But when I leave there, I won't be Daryn Colledge, the soldier, anymore. I'll be Daryn Colledge on to the next step, a university employee. And the one great thing is when you've been as semi-famous as I have been, it's allowed me a platform to continue to chase the things that I'm super passionate about, which is working with kids, working with military organizations, working with veteran suicide stuff. So I get to use what little celebrity I still have left to advance those projects, and that's who I'm hoping to be. I'm hoping to be Daryn Colledge now, who's continually in service, but in service in a different way.
Yeah.
So how much of this was a family decision for you as you left the NFL, as you're leaving the military now? How much of that played a role?
Huge. My wife is a massive part of what I do. I tell her every day, like, I wouldn't have made it 9 years in the league without her. I wouldn't have been able to make it a 6-year career. I couldn't have gone on my deployment without her. Like, the things that she's done to support me are endless, and I owe her everything for those. So when we made the decision to leave the NFL, we made it together. We looked at it and we said, are we here for the money? Are we here because we don't have anything else to do? Or are we here because we truly love what we're doing? And when too many of them went back to, we didn't have anything else to do, and the money was good, so we had decided that then it was time to do something else. And when I started to look down all the things I wanted to do, again, I made a list of about 3 or 4 jobs that I was like, these are the kind of things that I would be passionate about and I really want to do. And the military was on that list. We started looking at it, and the transition back to Boise came, and then we started looking into it, kind of, took 2 off the board, and we looked at 2 more, and then we had a long, hard talk. I went down and saw the recruiter. I was probably the easiest recruit he's ever had. I came down and said, hey, I want to join. Here's what I want to do, and I want to be an enlisted guy, and I've already got a college degree. This is all easy. I have all the physical traits to do what I want to do. I got all my information. We went back through it, and we made the decision as a pair. Like, this was the first time we were going to be separated for more than a couple weeks. This is the first time I was going to have to walk away from my kids for more than a couple days and go down this route. But
it's
I knew
the first time you're actually doing a job that you're risking your life as well.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not an easy life being an NFL spouse.
No, it's definitely not. Like, she had to worry every single Sunday. Like, she was worried that anytime I went down, like, is it a knee, is it a back, is it a neck? But she was never really concerned that I wasn't gonna come home.
Right.
But to put me in a helicopter and say, even in, as we've learned in this last year, it's deadly out there just doing our job in a practice environment, let alone to go to combat. She had to sign up for a lot, and but I wouldn't have done it without her support. 100%. I told her this is what I want to do, this is what I want to accomplish. But I also told her that if you're against it, I won't do it. I'll do something else, and we'll figure it out. And again, she comes from a service background. Her father put in 20 years with the Air Force. And she knew what was on the line, and she knew the consequences, but she was strong enough to say, all right, I got you. Let's do it.
How far out do you think people should be looking when they're making that decision? Because there's a bunch of points in people's military career. It's like, I might get out at this point, but how far out do you think people should be making those decisions, and really what should they be looking at?
I think you should be looking at the day you get in. You should have a plan set forth. I mean, you look at the military, even from when I started 6 years ago, the resources have been exponential in growth on your opportunities as a soldier outside of just being a normal soldier. They lead you down these paths now where there's these checklists where, you're trying to advance your career. There's opportunities for internships. There's money out there in programs like SEEP that most guys don't even know about, where where you're like, you can expand yourself beyond just being a soldier if you want to and grow. And I tell everybody, like, especially guys that are getting near their ETS, to go out and explore those options and take a look and know that this is waiting for you. There's always going to be another 6-year sign up and a free knife and a hat. Like, that stuff's always going to be around for sure. And that, things like TRICARE, the real world is not an easy place. Yeah. And I try to tell these young guys that, like, the real world out there, like, go out and find a job. Go out and see what it really costs for insurance. Like, look at that stuff. Now, National Guard guys are a little different in the fact that a lot of us have careers, but, especially our AGR guys that work within the, within the hangar for us. Like, the real world's a tough place. It's not 410s. It's not just, somebody you showing up in a uniform. So explore the options. If you want to grow as a soldier or as a person, great. And that'll only benefit you and grow you as a soldier inside the Army, and it will only help grow you as a leader. So take those chances, but do them from day one. Don't wait until the 11th hour and then go out there and realize, I've never had to fill out an application. I've never had to create a resume. I've never had to write a letter. I've never had to do any of these things. Go out and continue to grow and push your leaders. Make them do something for you. Make your squad leaders do the work for you. Make your officers do the work for you. Most officers have an open door policy. Ask them what you can do to better yourself as a soldier. And along the way, you might find something else that you love more. But you might just find something you love in the military, and you might like that. What you're going to lose in the military is you're going to lose the brotherhood. And that's the hardest part.
Are you worried about that at all right now?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
When you leave college football, like, all of a sudden you've lost the team and you lose a purpose, right? You lose your why. And mine got kicked down the road 9 years. Like, I all of a sudden I was 32 and I was like, whoa, okay, all of a sudden now I've lost the team. And I did. Like, most people ask me what I miss most about the NFL. And I tell them it's easy. It's the money. Secondly, it's the competition. It's the guys. It's going in. It's having the locker room. It's having the one goal. It's having it's having a group of 11 guys pointed at one goal. And the military was an easy transition for me. It's what I wanted to do. But all of a sudden I realized I was on another team again. I was a bunch of people pushing for one goal, and whatever that goal might be. But I was back on a team. But by then, I've now. I'm now pushing up on 40. Like, I've got enough real world experience. I've got family behind me. I know what my why is now outside of my team and what my why is for the future. And that's a continued life of service, hopefully, and with that, I'll make a much easier transition. Now, I'll always hold on to those memories of my football guys, and I'm always going to hold on to those memories of the people I've served with, and especially the guys I went to Afghanistan with. They'll always hold a special place for me. But we don't need each other in the same way anymore as we needed each other when we were in it. Now we get together and we have a beer and we tell old stories and we make sure everybody's doing all right and we check up on each other and stuff like that. But it's a different need and a different transition, and now I'm old enough to realize that. And some people have figured out when they're 22. Luckily, I never figured out till I was 30.
Yeah.
So,
as a veteran of the war in Afghanistan, how has this past year been for you? I mean, we're all sitting at this table, been there, fought there.
Yeah.
And at least for me personally, since August has been very frustrating. I don't know how you're dealing with it.
Yeah, man, it's such a tough thing because it's emotionally different, and I think it's emotionally different for each guy for what even their job was. I think it's different from a door kicker than it is from a guy like me, and it's tough to know you lost friends to something and to see it kind of like everybody wants to say now it feels like we didn't do anything for anything, and I don't believe that because I saw the changes we were making. I got a chance to work within the Afghan community and see, the difference you made for a long time. I think the hardest part is to realize that evil still resonates in that area and to see what's still going to be going on there and realize that stuff's not going away. I attribute it to my buddy. One of my buddies was a door kicker, and he says, you're sitting at this made up line and you're watching this village and you're watching evils get brought on a village that you're like would be unheard of. Like, if you saw them here, you'd be like, I'm going to do something about it. But because of some weird rule, because of some weird line, they can do it over there and I can't stop it. And that's the hardest thing. And now it feels like that line has just gotten farther away. Yep. And it's just a bigger village now. Like, there's going to be things happening there that we have no control over, that we fought for, that we believed in, that we sacrificed people for. And now we've got to sit there and watch it happen. Now, I don't think it'll go this way forever. I think something will spark up and eventually we'll have to get engaged again. And sadly, it's going to cost more money. It's going to cost more lives.
Yeah.
But evil will continue to perpetrate itself in those kind of manners. And we can't stop that until we physically get involved with that. And eventually we will again. And That's my belief, and the sacrifices made by people won't always be in vain, but I believe we're now in a middle ground where it feels like we were kind of sitting in this void where it's like, man, it feels like some people did some awful things and we made some awful sacrifices, and sadly we're not over there to make up for them right now.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
So now you're almost 40, right?
Yeah, knocking on the door.
You've had these two really incredible, unique lives, I guess, between the military, professional sports, and then even like high-level collegiate sports. Yeah. What are you doing now?
Well, I'm getting ready for my third career. See, my goal is actually to see how many jobs I can do. I'm going to try to see, like, the Army, I think, is going to owe me about $100 pension, once I'm 65
nice.
for being an E5. But I'm into my next career. I'm the director of development for Varsity B for the University of, for Boise State University.
What's Varsity B?
Varsity B is our alumni association. So we're the Letter Winners Association. For anybody that played collegiate sports or coached in collegiate sports or worked for the facility in collegiate sports, they're connected as alumni to Boise State. And my job is to bring them all home. My job is to make sure that they're having a unique experience, that they're being brought back in, recognized for the sacrifices and the things they've done for the university, and trying to give them a unique experience back to the university. I'm trying to touch all the sports. I'm trying to recognize our wrestlers that no longer have a program, trying to recognize what they did.
Don't get me started.
I know, exactly. It's things like that. It's guys like that, and it's guys like the baseball team that I'm like, they put a year in, and this was big for them and wanted to be a part of it. And it's like, it's trying to bring them back. It's recognizing like our girls soccer team who just made the Mount West Championship, and it's our golf teams and our gymnastics squads. It's kind of bringing them all back. Most people will tell you that are from here, like everybody knows who the football team is, and that's easy. Like they have the stadium and they've got huge fan bases. Man, we've got so many sports here that are doing such amazing things, like our cross country. Our program, our volleyball program has done just amazing this year. Like all those programs, I'm going to hopefully bring up along with it. I'm very much a high tide rises all boats kind of person. So my job is to continue to grow that and to recognize who came before us. Recognize those teams that have won championships and go out. And then my second goal is to be involved with our Bronco Life program, which works with our student athletes right now to try to give them a base that they don't leave like I did, not having a career lined up, not having something, not having that foundation behind them. So they're not just walking out in the world like, hey, thanks, you had a good time, we had a great run together, you're done. So Bronco Life is a program I'm not involved with right now. It's its own subsidiary, but they're trying to give these guys and girls a foundation and pillars, and hopefully I can slide Varsity B in there to also be like, hey, as soon as you're done, Varsity B's got you, and we're picking you up, and your family's right here waiting for you, and we've got mentors to call. We've got people that want to give you internships. We've got opportunities for you to stay within the university life in that community, and hopefully keep them around, man, and give these guys a purpose once they're done, because just like a military person leaving, their why goes out the window, and we want to make sure that they've got something to fall back on and be a part of.
Dude, you're doing the same thing that we do at Mission 43. You're just doing it with veterans of Boise State athletics.
Absolutely.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, so it was an opportunity for me to come back and probably, I think like any parent, you want it better for your kids than it was before you. Yep. Well, this is no different than that. I want it better for the graduates that leave now than it was for me. Now, I was super blessed. I left and had a 9-year career. Daryn Colledge was just fine. But I got plenty of buddies that left out of here that played ball that lost that, that identity and have struggled to find work, have fell into drugs, have become homeless. And that's stuff you would never think. And these guys left with college degrees, high-level collegiate athletes, the best out of their high school, guys that probably were circled as most likely to succeed, and their lives have fallen apart. I've got buddies in jail, like no different than the buddies that had come back from Afghanistan. They have the same issues in different ways. And it's our job, I tell everybody, like, I don't think everybody can help everybody. I don't think everybody owes everybody something. I don't think everybody needs to pay it forward. There's definitely people that we owe more to than others. But if you're in a unique position to give back and to make the world a better place than when you came into it, then I do think you owe it to spread that love and to give something back to people. And I have been in a fortunate position to do that. My wife and I are both in a life of service. Mine now has to have a job. Hers has always been volunteer, but we've spent our lives trying to make the world a better place than it was when we came. And it doesn't work every time. I'm not curing cancer tomorrow. I'm not saving 100 lives. But just like her, if I can change one life, if I can make it better, hopefully we can kind of start spreading that out and get those roots to grow a little deeper.
Well, thanks for dedicating your entire life to a life of service thus far.
Well, there was a few years there where it was just for me. I made some good money and had some fun, but it's been it's been an awesome chance to get back and to do military work and to be involved with some just awesome organizations like Mission 43 and Reach Out Wisconsin that I'm working with now, which is a suicide prevention organization out there. So it's just one of those things where, again, if I can use what little celebrity I got to keep getting back and to raise the flag a little higher and spread the word, man, I'm down.
Well, it's awesome to have you in our community. We're grateful for that. So thanks a lot. Thanks for your time, and appreciate you joining the military and everything that you did.
Oh, thank you guys, man. It's been great. I've loved the MREs. I've got a few uniforms they're going to let me keep, and I've got some great stories. So it's been an awesome experience.
Well, thanks for sharing your little celebrity with us.
Thank you, guys.
All right, man. See you around.
Thanks for joining us for the Mission 43 podcast. Our purpose is to provide you opportunities to lead, learn, and inspire throughout your Idaho communities.
We want to hear what you thought. Like, subscribe, or leave a comment below.